pick which sneakers that I'm going to bury him in. My son overdosed at the age of 22 years old.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Visit cdc.gov/RX awareness.
Brought to you by the Department of Health in Marion County and Ocala Fire Rescue.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Good morning. You're listening to AM Ocala Live, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, broadcasting to you live from the Paddock Mall, streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, The Source Radio. 10 minutes before the top of the 9 o'clock hour, as now we have on the phone to talk with Nikkinen, Republican candidate for property appraiser of Marion County. Has worked as an appraiser for nearly 3 decades in 4 north central Florida counties. Since 2016, has been the assistant property appraiser here in Marion, where he earned the equivalent of a doctorate in commercial real estate appraisal. And in addition, Nick earned the highest level of designation bestowed by the International Association of Assessing Officers, or the IAAO. Good morning, Nick. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Adam. I'm great. Thank you. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. It's glad to have you on here. And as we do have you on, pretty much this is your time. So I figured whatever you wanted to start with, I'd leave it right up to you, my friend.
Well, thank you again for having me on your show and the opportunity to speak to your listeners.
Absolutely.
My name is Neil Nikkinen. You've done a great job pronouncing my name. Ever since kindergarten, most people haven't been able to pronounce Nikkinen, so everybody just called me Nick.
Yeah.
So now I go by Nikkinen. Rolls right off the tongue.
I think I had the same.
Nikkinen.
I had the same little issues with my last name and pronunciation, so I've always strived to be a little bit harder when I come to pronouncing somebody else's. Maybe that's it.
Well, you've done a great job. Thank you for that. Yeah, Nikkinen is a good Finnish name. And most people don't. The Finlanders around the area recognize that, and they always begin to speak Finnish to me. But unfortunately, I didn't pick much of that up from my relatives, so I'm kind of clueless. But I can say a couple things to get by, but that's about it. But yeah, thanks for the great introduction. That is a terrific summary of my work history. I have been an appraiser in Florida through my real estate license, actually, for 35 years when I became a real estate salesman licensed through the state of Florida in 1985. And but then the rules changed in 1992. I became a state certified general appraiser, again, through the state of Florida. So that brings us up on almost 28 years of being a certified appraiser.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I've been appraising properties here in Central Florida, Hernando County, Citrus County, Marion, Levy, for a long time, and love this area. Gosh, even when I moved here 35 years ago, I moved to Brooksville. My family was dabbled in real estate and thoroughbred racehorses, but we couldn't afford any farms up here in beautiful Ocala, Marion County. So we kind of settled in the Brooksville area, where land was a lot cheaper. And so we bred the horses up here in Marion at Good Chance Farm out there on 484 and the interstate.
Nice.
And yeah, it was a beautiful farm at the time, long time ago, and had some award-winning horses, bloodstock up there. And so we breed the horses there, and then my family would raise them there in Brooksville and then sell them off to trainers at Tampa Bay Downs. And some of those horses actually did fairly well at Tampa Bay Downs and other racing circuits. So that's just kind of I've always loved Marion County. Have even used to come up here and go to Sam's Club before all that stuff opened up down there in Brooksville. And so it's, I've always had long time roots. Unfortunately, only have lived here for about 10 years. When I married my wife, Rosalind Vandeven Nikkinen, in 2009, we moved up here, and So she's been a longtime resident of Marion County. Her family started Hamlet Construction back in the 70s, and now it's a Miller Pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
But in any case, she has longtime roots here in Marion, so she brought me home here in 2009. But can I give you a little bit of my work history and the importance of this position? You know, the property appraiser's office hasn't turned over in nearly a quarter century. Billy Smith has been the appraiser. When he retires in 2021, he'll have completed his 24th year as the elected official here in Marion County, and 45 years actually as an employee of the office, which is just astonishing.
Yeah, wow.
We've got a couple people that have retired with nearly 50 years of service to the community in our office. But so when I moved up here in 2009, I asked Billy, I said, I've left my job in Hernando County. I was chief deputy down there in the property appraiser's office. And I said, I'm moving here. I'm moving home. I said, do you have any openings? And he said, gosh, Nick, he said, this is a tough time. You know, this is the recession. He says, I'm cutting staff, cutting budgets. And, you know, he said, it's really not a good time. So I was fortunate enough to get a job a little bit closer to home in Palatka, where I was the director of real estate up there in the property appraiser's office in Putnam County. And did that for 3 years until I was selected by a headhunter who was looking to find a director of real estate in Orange County for the recently elected Rick Singh. And so I interviewed for that position and was selected to be the assistant director of real estate for Orange County, which was an absolutely fascinating job, dealing with all the theme parks and, you know, multi-million-dollar, hundreds of $1 million resorts and hotels, and it was just absolutely fascinating. I oversaw a staff of 54 in that position, and had a wonderful 3 divisions, had a residential manager, a commercial manager, and a field staff manager, and all terrific folks, and loved that job. I had a 2-year contract there, and when that ended, they decided to go in a different direction. And that thankfully was about the time that Billy said, hey, it's time to come home. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned in the intro, in 2016, he hired me as the assistant property appraiser here in Marion County. And I have been fortunate enough to serve here the citizens of the community for the last 4 years in that capacity.
Absolutely. And
so in that capacity, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and with that, just as much as we've talked here on the radio where Marion County is, like you mentioned in 2009, how this area was hit pretty hard in lieu of recession, but where we bounced back and where we're right now, and outside of COVID-19, but the idea of Marion County and where we're at on the cusp of really doing something great when it comes to the community and what opportunities there will be as, you know, just around the corner with what we have already with the e-commerce industrial park and all that stuff, and just what is kind of reviving in Ocala in itself, and a lot going on.
Yeah, that's a great question and lead into some issues that we've already been facing with COVID and the decline in the economy. You know, the property appraiser's office is considered a constitutional office, and as such, we're bound by the law to follow the Constitution of the state. And the Constitution at this point says all valuation is done as of January 1st. So this tax roll that we're completing right now is effective January 1st, 2020, looking back into 2019 for sales data and income data. And as such, any changes to the tax roll based on COVID-19 and a potential decline in the economy will be effective for the 2021 tax roll for the new appraiser, whoever that may be. They'll have to deal with the positioning of the market at that point. Mm-hmm. But you're right. As of January 1st, the economy was rocking and rolling. We've got tremendous sales activity, high volume, high transactions, good occupancy on retail and hotel space, apartment complexes and the like. All were doing tremendous.
Yeah.
And so it'll be very interesting to see what the economy does. Marion County has been very unique in that situation where we were very late feel the effects of the recession in 2008. We were fairly quick to come back. Marion County reacts somewhat differently than some of the more urban areas. So it'll be interesting to see how this transacts as we monitor the market through the remainder of 2020 here.
Excellent.
Into 2021.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nick. As Mr. Nick Nikkinen has worked as an appraiser for nearly 3 decades for North Central Florida counties since 2016. We appreciate the time, Nick. We look forward to maybe hearing from you in the future.
Excellent. Would love to. Thank you, Adam.
You got it. WOCA back after this.
Take care.
The Supreme Court.
The Trump administration had argued against protections based on sexual orientation or gender identity. America's listening to Fox News.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered